One careless moment, one reckless choice. That's all it took for 6 ordinary people to meet some of the dumbest and most shocking ends imaginable. These stories aren't just bizarre, they'll make you rethink every split-second decision you make. It was July 4th, 2022, when Preston Doyle's quest for viral fame turned into a deadly spectacle in Mobile, Alabama. The 21-year-old college dropout had built a reputation around his backyard stunts and minor viral clips. The previous 4th of July, he'd taped 20 sparklers to his jacket and sprinted around a cul-de-sac, earning neighborhood applause and social media likes. Those fleeting moments of attention planted a dangerous seed in his mind. Preston spent months planning what he called the Human Sparkler 2.0. He constructed a full-body jumpsuit by duct-taping over 100 firecrackers and small aerial shells to a cotton hoodie and jeans. No flame-retardant materials were considered. No safety protocols existed. Just raw ambition and a friend armed with a blowtorch to light the ignition fuse. Friends warned him about the risks, but Preston dismissed their concerns. He was convinced this stunt would finally give him the breakthrough he desperately craved. The plan seemed foolproof in his mind. Run down the street as fireworks launched from his body in a spectacular display that would break the internet. At 9:03 p.m., 15 cheering onlookers gathered as Preston prepared for his grand finale. The summer air was thick with anticipation and the smell of barbecue smoke from nearby celebrations. Preston struck a pose, grinning confidently as his friend approached with the blowtorch. The ignition fuse sparked to life. The first few firecrackers popped in sequence as intended, drawing cheers from the crowd. But the aerial shells on his back had other plans. They ignited prematurely and simultaneously, creating a backdraft that instantly engulfed the upper half of his suit in flames. The cotton fabric caught fire immediately, melting and adhering to his skin within seconds. Preston's confident grin vanished as he stumbled and collapsed, his screams piercing the night air. Chaos erupted as other fireworks began launching erratically in all directions, striking parked cars, igniting shrubbery, and sending the crowd scrambling for cover. Friends who tried to help were forced to retreat as firecrackers ricocheted off the pavement, exploding around them in a deadly light show. For nearly 90 seconds, no one could reach Preston through the ongoing barrage of sparks, smoke, and popping blasts. The very spectacle he'd created to entertain had become his prison. By the time someone managed to get close with a garden hose, Preston was no longer moving, his body severely burned beyond recognition. He was airlifted to a burn trauma center, but the damage was too extensive. Preston succumbed to his injuries 48 hours later, his dreams of viral fame extinguished along with his life. The tragedy serves as a stark reminder that the pursuit of online attention can lead down increasingly dangerous paths. What started as harmless sparklers escalated into a lethal fireworks suit, proving that sometimes the price of going viral is far too high to pay. It was March 3, 2020, when Derek Williams's explosive temper finally met its match at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas campus. Derek had always been a powder keg waiting to explode. Growing up with a father who constantly berated him for being weak and drilled into him that real men never back down, Derek developed an uncontrollable rage that followed him everywhere. His fraternity brothers knew to give him space when things didn't go his way, and campus dining staff had learned this lesson the hard way. Derek was banned from 3 dining halls for his aggressive outbursts over the smallest inconveniences. That fateful night, Derek was down to his last $5, desperately needing food before a crucial exam. The vending machine outside the library seemed like his salvation, but it quickly became his nemesis. The machine swallowed his money on the first attempt, leaving him empty-handed and furious. His roommate offered to lend him cash, but Derek's pride wouldn't allow him to accept help. Real men solve their own problems. When the machine ate his money a second time, Derek's fist connected with the glass, creating spiderweb cracks across the surface. By the third theft, something inside Derek snapped completely. The 900-pound vending machine became the target of 12 minutes of pure, unhinged fury. Derek began violently shaking the massive machine, his muscles straining against its weight. When that failed to dislodge his snacks, he started ramming his shoulder into it repeatedly, each impact causing the machine to rock dangerously on its base. The rational part of his mind had completely shut down. There was only rage and the need to win this battle. Spotting a nearby bench, Derek climbed up to gain better leverage. From this elevated position, he grabbed the top of the machine and began pulling it toward himself with all his strength. The machine tilted at a precarious 30-degree angle, teetering on the edge of disaster. But Derek couldn't see past his anger to recognize the mortal danger he had created. Physics took over where Derek's judgment had failed. The massive machine reached its tipping point and began crashing forward. Derek tried to jump clear, but his foot caught on the bench, sending him tumbling backward just as 900 pounds of metal and machinery came crushing down. The impact was devastating. The machine's full weight landed squarely on Derek's chest, instantly shattering his ribcage. Multiple ribs punctured both lungs, causing immediate collapse and internal bleeding. His sternum exploded into fragments that tore into his heart. Within 4 minutes, Derek Williams was dead, crushed by his own uncontrollable rage and a vending machine that simply wouldn't give him his snacks. Security cameras captured every moment of Derek's final tantrum. When emergency responders arrived 8 minutes after a horrified student called 911, they found Derek's lifeless body pinned beneath the machine that had finally won their battle. The $5 that started it all lay scattered on the floor, worthless now that Derek would never need food again. In the end, Derek's father's lessons about never backing down had led his son to a fight he couldn't win against an opponent that felt no pain, showed no mercy, and weighed 900 pounds. It was November 8, 2019, when Kevin Martinez's obsession with bathroom efficiency turned his Portland apartment into a death trap. The 31-year-old freelance writer had always been different. While his neighbors called maintenance for simple fixes, Kevin preferred elaborate DIY solutions that often created bigger problems. His bathroom had become a testament to this philosophy. A maze of extension cords snaking across wet tiles, power strips balanced precariously on the sink edge, and a tablet suspended from the ceiling by a complex rigging system he'd fashioned from coat hangers and dental floss. For months, Kevin had ignored the steady drip from his bathroom ceiling, despite the obvious electrical hazard it created. His landlord had been trying to schedule repairs, but Kevin refused all maintenance visits, convinced he could solve everything himself. The leak had grown worse, creating a perpetual puddle near his makeshift charging station where he powered multiple devices during his extended bathroom sessions. Kevin had been constipated for 3 days, and his solution was typically overcomplicated. He'd positioned his tablet at the perfect angle for reading, arranged a cup of coffee within arm's reach on the sink, and even installed a small fan to improve air circulation. The bathroom resembled a bizarre command center more than a place for basic human needs. That Friday morning, everything went wrong simultaneously. While adjusting his tablet's position for better lighting, Kevin's elbow caught the coffee cup. The hot liquid cascaded directly onto the power strip below, sending sparks flying across the small space. The electrical surge ignited a roll of toilet paper hanging directly above the outlet. Kevin shot up in panic, but his sudden movement tangled him in the web of cords suspending his tablet. As he struggled to free himself, the burning toilet paper dropped onto his synthetic bathrobe. The cheap material caught fire instantly, flames racing up the fabric toward his chest and arms. Desperate to reach the shower, Kevin lunged forward but caught his foot in a loop of extension cord. He crashed headfirst into the toilet bowl with a sickening crack. The impact knocked him unconscious immediately, leaving him helpless as flames consumed his upper body. The fire spread quickly through the cord-filled bathroom. By the time firefighters arrived, Kevin was beyond saving. The first responders stood bewildered at the scene, trying to piece together how someone could create such a dangerous setup in such a small space. The investigation revealed Kevin's elaborate bathroom contraption in all its deadly detail. His landlord faced immediate lawsuits when other tenants discovered similar electrical violations throughout the building, a pattern of deferred maintenance that had created hazardous conditions in multiple units. Neighbors later revealed Kevin's history of bizarre modifications throughout his apartment. He'd rigged his kitchen faucet with a pulley system and installed motion sensors in his bedroom closet. His need to overcomplicate simple tasks had become legendary in the building. Kevin Martinez died because he couldn't accept that sometimes the simplest solution is asking for help. His determination to solve every problem himself transformed a basic bathroom into a fire hazard that claimed his life in the most preventable way imaginable. It was August 17, 2019, when Dustin Crawford's obsession with becoming a competitive eating champion led him to the most ridiculous death in Cedar Rapids County Fair history. The 27-year-old insurance claims adjuster had spent months perfecting what he believed was his ticket to fame, The Chubby Bunny Challenge. After being rejected from 3 legitimate eating contests for lack of experience, Dustin refused to abandon his dream. He discovered the county fair was hosting an unofficial marshmallow eating contest with a modest $50 prize, and saw it as his golden opportunity. For weeks, Dustin had trained religiously in his apartment, timing himself while stuffing increasingly large quantities of marshmallows into his mouth. His girlfriend had left him the previous week, calling his marshmallow obsession pathetic and embarrassing, but Dustin remained undeterred, convinced that victory at the fair would prove everyone wrong. The contest rules were simple. Participants had to stuff large marshmallows in their mouths, while clearly saying Chubby Bunny after each edition. The last person standing would claim the prize. What started as innocent county fair entertainment quickly turned into a nightmare scenario that would haunt Cedar Rapids for years. From the opening round, Dustin ignored the speech requirement entirely, cramming marshmallows into his mouth at a reckless pace that far exceeded his competitors. While others struggled to pronounce the required phrase around 3 or 4 marshmallows, Dustin was already approaching double digits. By the 8th round, he had managed to pack 23 marshmallows into his mouth and throat, creating a dangerous situation that contest officials failed to recognize. The marshmallows began absorbing his saliva and expanding, forming an increasingly dense and sticky mass that gradually blocked his airway. Despite being unable to speak or breathe properly, Dustin attempted to continue adding marshmallows to his already overloaded mouth. The sugary mass transformed into a cement-like consistency that completely sealed both his throat and nasal passages. His face began turning blue as oxygen deprivation set in. Panic struck as Dustin frantically clawed at his mouth, desperately trying to remove the compacted marshmallows. Contest officials attempted the Heimlich maneuver, but the sticky marshmallow plug had become too dense and adhesive to dislodge through conventional means. Death occurred within minutes from complete airway obstruction. When paramedics arrived, they found the final marshmallow still clutched tightly in Dustin's hand, a tragic symbol of his misguided determination to achieve competitive eating glory at any cost. The aftermath proved equally absurd. Dustin's mother filed a lawsuit against the marshmallow manufacturer, claiming their product was too sticky for safe human consumption. The fair's insurance company refused to pay any settlement, stating that death by marshmallow wasn't covered under their standard policy terms. The Cedar Rapids County Fair discontinued all eating contests following the incident, and Dustin Crawford became an unfortunate cautionary tale about the dangers of pursuing fame through reckless food challenges. It was August 12, 2015, when Tyler Brooks decided to turn his annual Phoenix pool party into a deadly spectacle that would haunt everyone present. The 26-year-old insurance salesman had been building his reputation as the neighborhood daredevil, each summer pushing the boundaries further to earn gasps and cheers from his guests. What started as simple diving tricks had evolved into increasingly reckless stunts that made even his closest friends uncomfortable. By noon that scorching Arizona day, Tyler was already several drinks deep, his judgment clouded by alcohol and an insatiable need for attention. The 2-story house provided the perfect launching pad for what he called his ultimate cannonball, a stunt he'd been planning all summer. His girlfriend watched nervously as Tyler made his 3rd trip to the roof's edge, each attempt drawing more concerned voices from below. Friends had already begun leaving, their fun overshadowed by growing anxiety about Tyler's deteriorating condition and dangerous fixation. The warnings fell on deaf ears. Tyler's alcohol-soaked brain could only process the imagined glory of his signature move. He grabbed a colorful beach ball, convinced it would add flair to his performance, and climbed onto the roof one final time. Standing 24 feet above the concrete deck, Tyler positioned himself with the confidence of someone whose perception had been completely distorted. The shallow end of the pool stretched below, but his intoxicated mind miscalculated both distance and trajectory. With a triumphant yell, Tyler launched himself into the air, attempting multiple flips while clutching the beach ball. The physics were unforgiving. His excessive force and poor positioning sent him sailing past the pool's edge, reality crashing down as he realized mid-flight that water wouldn't break his fall. The concrete pool deck met Tyler's skull with devastating finality. The sickening crack echoed across the suddenly silent party as his head split open on impact. His neck snapped at the 2nd cervical vertebra, severing his spinal cord instantly. The beach ball bounced mockingly into the pool while Tyler's broken body lay motionless, blood spreading across the sun-baked concrete. The massive head trauma caused immediate brain death, while the spinal severance ensured respiratory failure within seconds. Party guests stood frozen in horror, the festive atmosphere replaced by screams and chaos. Several people would require extensive counseling to process what they'd witnessed. A friend's life ending in an instant due to alcohol-fueled recklessness. Emergency responders arrived to find a scene that would stick with them throughout their careers. Tyler's death was instantaneous, the combination of traumatic brain injury and spinal cord damage leaving no possibility of survival. The aftermath rippled through the Phoenix community and beyond. Insurance companies began implementing stricter policies regarding pool parties and alcohol consumption at private residences. Tyler's death became a cautionary tale used in safety presentations across Arizona. His girlfriend, who had threatened to leave if he attempted the stunt, was left to grapple with survivor's guilt and the knowledge that her final words to Tyler had been spoken in anger. The friends who stayed to witness the tragedy struggled with questions about whether they could have done more to prevent it. The pool that had been the centerpiece of so many happy gatherings became a constant reminder of how quickly celebration can turn to catastrophe. Tyler's parents eventually sold the house, unable to bear the sight of where their son's need for attention had cost him everything. What began as another summer party in suburban Phoenix ended with a young man's life cut short by a toxic combination of alcohol, ego, and poor judgment. Tyler Brooks had finally achieved the attention he craved, but at the ultimate price, becoming a permanent reminder that some stunts aren't worth the applause. It was May 5, 2020, when 22-year-old Ruben "Rubes" Taylor made his final attempt at internet fame in an abandoned cement factory in Detroit, Michigan. Rubes and his crew had built a modest following, creating extreme dare videos, each stunt more outrageous than the last. Their channel specialized in dangerous challenges that pushed the boundaries of common sense, attracting viewers who craved increasingly reckless content. Their latest brainstorm seemed simple enough: fill an old bathtub with wet cement and challenge each other to bathe like living statues. The abandoned factory provided the perfect backdrop of industrial decay they craved for their aesthetic, with crumbling walls and rusted machinery, creating an apocalyptic atmosphere. What they lacked was any semblance of planning or safety consideration. No exit strategy, no safety measures, no understanding of how quickly cement sets once mixed with water. Rubes volunteered to go first, boasting about being invincible and mildly cement-proof, whatever that meant. His friends had tried talking him out of more dangerous stunts before, but Rubes always insisted he knew what he was doing and that danger was just part of the game. The group discovered an old industrial cement mixer on site, a massive rusted beast that had been abandoned for years. They rigged it with a makeshift lever system using metal pipes and rope to pour directly into the bathtub they'd dragged inside from a nearby demolition site. The setup looked precarious, but they were more concerned with camera angles than structural integrity. As Rubes stepped into the tub wearing only swim shorts and lowered himself down, his friends positioned multiple cameras around the scene and shouted encouragement about statue mode being activated. The anticipation was electric as they prepared to capture what they believed would be their most viral moment yet. The first friend pulled the lever, but the rusted mechanism jammed halfway. When another grabbed a metal pipe to force it loose, applying significant pressure, the chute suddenly swung completely open. Nearly 300 pounds of wet cement surged into the tub instantly, engulfing Rubes up to his shoulders in mere seconds. Before anyone could process what happened, cement continued flowing and spilled over his face, sealing around his mouth and nose as it began its rapid curing process. The mixture was thicker than expected, immediately restricting his breathing. Rubes struggled briefly, but couldn't inhale or signal clearly through the thickening mixture that muffled his desperate attempts at communication. Panic set in as his friends tried scooping cement away with bare hands, their fingers scraping uselessly against the hardening surface. The cement was setting faster than anyone anticipated. By the time someone found a hammer and began chipping frantically at the edges, Rubes had already suffocated beneath the concrete tomb of his own making. Emergency responders arrived too late despite frantic calls. The bathtub required industrial jackhammering equipment to retrieve his body, the cement having cured completely around him, like a grotesque sculpture. What started as another wild stunt for social media views ended with a young man's life cut short by a combination of poor planning, mechanical failure, and the unforgiving nature of industrial materials. The abandoned factory that provided their perfect aesthetic backdrop became the scene of a tragedy that no amount of likes or shares could undo. Rubes' final video was never uploaded, but the story spread anyway as a cautionary tale about the deadly pursuit of viral fame. His friends were left traumatized, forever haunted by the sound of cement hardening and their inability to save him from his own reckless ambition. If these jaw-dropping tales of fatal misjudgment left you stunned, don't miss our next video for even more unbelievable stories that defy logic and reason.